first year in business was 2021. I did about 500K in revenue, like 550K. And I was so spread thin. I was traveling a lot. I was not focused on one thing. And I made a decision at the end of 2021 to shut down 2 of the 3 lines of business.
Welcome back to another episode of the Revenue Reimagined podcast. Our guest today is none other than Ian Koniak, the president and founder of Ian Koniak Sales Coaching. You were as creative as I am with my business name. And Ian helps AEs go from good to great by mastering the mindset, habits, and skills that are needed to perform at the highest level in sales. As a speaker, trainer, and expert on all things enterprise sales, Ian has led national training workshops for Fortune 500 companies, and his message has been shared in a variety of media, including leading top 100 podcasts. With over $100 million, holy smokes, sold in his career, Ian was the former #1 enterprise AE at the small little company called Salesforce, and is the acting dean of Pavilion's Enterprise Sales School. Ian, thanks so much for joining us, man.
I'm happy to be here. It's a long time coming, so thanks for having me on.
It is.
Welcome, Ian. Welcome, Ian. And Ian's not feeling so well today, so we're super grateful for him to stay on and do the podcast today. So we're going to start off with a zinger. So let's reimagine your role a little bit. So you've done sales for a long period of time. What other role besides sales would you take on as a go-to-market leader in the go-to-market realm?
Well, it's interesting. Before I did sales, I was a teacher. I taught English in Venezuela. Oh, and cool. Ironically, that teaching actually helped me as a sales leader when I was running sales at Rico, which I had 70 sales reps and 10 sales managers under me. And now in my own business, I actually coach and teach content for training. So I think being a good teacher really helps in terms of teaching your team how to do their jobs, especially salespeople who may be green or new, but also teaching customers about the problems that you solve, teaching, cool. In all areas of content with the areas that you can help as a business. So I think being a teacher served me really well in my capacity now as a CEO and as a sales leader and as a sales rep. So I would
probably like an enablement.
I was just going to say, so like you're leading sales enablement, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm selling right now is sales enablement. I call it sales coaching, but it's you have to be able to teach in a way that people learn and people connect. Use stories. You have to be able to connect with your audience, or else you're going to lose the room, right? So I think that there's a lot of value to teaching and speaking in general.
So I love that. I think that, there's this, I grew up. I worked for a company for a long time that had an enablement team of like 25 to 35 people, depending on the size. And we did a really good job of training reps. I find that most companies now, and Dale and I play a lot in the startup space, don't have enablement, right? You might have, a manager who was, promoted, recently. Maybe they know nothing about management. They were the top AE, so they should be a leader. But a lot of founders who are trying to transition from founder-led sales, and everything that you're talking about, teaching and telling a story, is so important and something that doesn't get done well enough. So you but you pivoted from working in corporate America to doing your own thing and building, a massive business by yourself and coaching reps. What brought that on? Like, I know my reason, I know Dale's reason, but what was your epiphany that was like, I'm done working for big America?
Well, it was more like a near-death experience. It was sometimes what I call them are God shots or God moments, when you just have something happen in your life that wakes you up and makes you realize that life can be very brittle and fragile. It could be losing somebody. It could be, potentially facing death yourself. And that's what happened to me in 2018. I got stuck upside down on a roller coaster, and I was at the peak of the drop, and it was one of these flying coasters.
You're not kidding. You're being dead serious right now.
There's footage of it. Yeah, footage online. People were filming it from the bottom. We were up there for 30 minutes, hanging 180 feet in the air, and I was staring straight down with nothing below me except a lap bar, and it was the scariest moment of my life. At that point, it was like it was an interesting day. I had been reading a book that morning called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. So I don't think anything is coincidence. I think things happen for a reason. And that was already on my mind. It was a book called by an author named Bonnie Ware. And she interviewed people on their deathbed and hospice care, and basically boiled it down to the top 5 regrets. And one of those regrets is not living a life true to yourself and not doing the thing you really wanted to do. And when I was up there, I just came to this realization that my entire life I had been living for my own selfish reasons. I had been living with the pursuit of money and the pursuit of recognition and status. And if I were to fall and that lap bar or that coaster were to break at that time, I would have been a blip in this universe. And all of these kind of, I'll call them gifts, or at that point, I had been number 1 rep at Salesforce. I had been really successful, and I also had overcome a lot of hardship, and I had essentially this array of tools and learnings and teachings that was solely existing inside of me. And so I thought, if I died, all of these lessons and, teachings would have been dissolved in that moment. And I said, I don't care what it takes. Fortunately, the roller coaster after 30 minutes, when I was up there, I don't want to skip the story, but I started praying. I said, God, please get me
I'm
down.
having heart palpitations as you say this.
It was like one of the scariest things I've ever been through. But I started praying and I said, God, please get me down. I promise I'll start using my gifts to serve others rather than being selfish just to pursue money. And then the coaster didn't stop. It was still still. It didn't go again. And I said, God, I promise I won't wait anymore. I'll just get me down. I'll do it now. And I kid you not, that moment, the coaster took off, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm on the hook. So at that point, that was my journey into, I guess, entrepreneurship. And I kept that promise, and that was over 5 years ago. So the rest is history.
Cow. How many AEs do you think you've helped over that time? Like, so you come off that coaster and you're like, okay, I now need to hold my promise I just made to God. Like, how many AEs have you helped through that?
Well, it's interesting because I started without a coaching business. So my promise, I didn't have a business. I didn't have an offer. I didn't have a go-to-market strategy. It was just, I need to start serving. So I got a book by Gary Vaynerchuk, and it was about social media marketing, and it was talking about Instagram. And I basically said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do to serve others. I'm just going to make a video every single day, 1 video a day, a short video to share some of my learnings, and we'll see what happens. And so the videos kind of took off. I got a lot of followers, they got a lot of views, and I didn't get any clients per se, right? I basically was just giving away stuff. Yeah. And but what ended up happening is opportunities started coming to me. So there's a really good quote by Jim Rohn, which I love, which it says this. It says, success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by becoming a more attractive person. So what I did in that next year in 2019 is I started becoming a person who gave stuff away, who was really bringing value to others without necessarily expecting a return. And I was not doing it for others. I was doing it for my promise. And so what ended up happening is, for one reason or another, I started attracting opportunities in Salesforce. They wanted me to go speak in different SKOs. They wanted me to train on my secrets. And then coaching clients actually reached out. They said, hey, can you coach me? Can you help me? And I picked up my first couple clients in 2019, very, very little revenue. But that's kind of where it all started. And it was, the views have been reached, like the views of my videos. I'm probably north of 5 million views in my YouTube channel and my LinkedIn. I have 50,000 followers. I post every day. So I'm reaching a lot of salespeople. But as far as people that have been through either my programs, or I've spoken to SKOs or signed up for my courses, it's definitely in the thousands. As far as people have consumed my content, it's definitely in the millions. So I'd say paid customers, thousands at this point.
So it's not always about paid customers.
What?
It's not always about paid customers.
Yeah, that's the thing. For people I reach, I get messages every day that people that aren't my customers saying how, if my video inspired them or got them into sobriety or whatever. It's those are the things that really honestly keep me doing the free content that I do, where, I don't expect anything in return still.
The messages like that, I find for me, are so much more valuable. And listen, I love money as much as the next guy, right? But someone reaching out and being like, this that you said had this impact and caused me to change my life. Like, that is so powerful and comes back, and I think, and pays in spades more than money any time of the day. So Ian, you've built a business, right? It's not just you now. You have an AE. I think I heard you say, maybe I'm wrong, that you have a BDR as well. Yep. So you have kind of single-handedly transitioned from founder-led sales, like everything that we help founders do all day long, albeit on a much larger scale, like you've done. And I think there's a lot of similarities, whether it's your coaching business transitioning from founder-led sales, or a founder who just, is bootstrapped and is trying to transition from founder-led sales. What was the hardest part of that for you? Because giving up control to me is so hard. I'm curious what it was.
So hard. Like, he can't give up control of anything. So
I control what Dale wears. I dress him every day.
You should do the Enneagram test. You might be an 8. An 8, the biggest fear is feeling helpless or out of control, and that's what drives every action. So
this is not the Adam J show, but very quickly. So I was getting a haircut yesterday because I have so much hair, and the barber's Wi-Fi was down, and I actually called Dale afterwards. I was dark for an hour, and I was having I need to see a therapist for this. Like, I'll fully own that. I was having such anxiety of, what am I going to miss? I'm not in control. Something's going to go wrong. And you know what? I came out, and guess what? The world was just fine.
It was just fine. Right? Gosh, I guess part of the transition, I'll talk about. First, I want to just share one story. The biggest deal I ever closed was a $12 million deal. Woo. And in the peak of that deal, this was when I was at Salesforce, I had a trip booked for Alaska, and it was a cruise. And we were probably a few weeks away from closing this, and there was legal going on. There was business value services going on to create a business case. There was engineering. There was all this stuff. And I got on the boat, and they were going to charge me like $100 Wi-Fi a day. And out of principle, I was like, that's such a ripoff. I'm just not going to do it. Screw you guys. And so I called my team, and I kind of had set up the pieces in place before I left, but I called my team. I'm like, I'm going to be offline for a week, you guys. You guys got to execute on these key priorities. And I genuinely let go. And I was with my family. I was with my wife and her family, our 1-year-old at the time. And this was a big lesson for me, because when I got back, not only was everything fine, everything was better than when I was there. So sometimes things are actually better when you let people do their jobs. And
I try to tell Adam that all the time, but
that it's better if I let you do it. Yeah.
Let people, you trust people. It's hard though, because again, you feel that like angst of like, I need to, if you want something done right, you do it yourself, and you probably will do it better than maybe your salesperson or other people on your team. But here's the reality. We only have so much time in the day. And if you want to scale a business, you have to be able to allocate your time into the most valuable places. And I'm reading a book right now, and it's called The E-Myth Revisited for small business owners. And it's really all about working on the business versus in the business. And I realized that pretty quickly, where I was just so much in the business that I couldn't grow and scale the business. So I decided, when I first started my business, I had 3 lines of revenue that I had. I had what was called advisory services, where I would probably do something similar to maybe what you guys do, and go into small startups and advise them on go-to-market strategy and sales playbook and building out their teams. That was one division. I had coaching business that I did, where I had like one-on-one clients. And then I had a third line of business where it was doing like keynotes and speaking workshops, right?
That's the best line, in my opinion. That's the most fun line of business.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty fun. So what I realized is I was just taking revenue wherever I can get it. Private coaching here, advisory here, and then a workshop here. And here's what happened, okay? My first year in business was 2021. I did about $500K in revenue, like $550K. And I was so spread thin. I was traveling a lot. I was not focused on one thing. And I made a decision at the end of 2021 to shut down 2 of the 3 lines of business. I shut down my advisory and I shut down my B2B training.
Ever feel like keeping your CRM updated with call notes is a nightmare? You're not alone. Most sales leaders would rate their CRM hygiene a 4 out of 10. Badly maintained CRMs lead to inaccurate data, missed opportunities, and a messy sales pipeline. Not ideal, right? Introducing Attention, your sales rep's personal Ironman suit. It transforms CRM upkeep, automating it with AI, and freeing your reps to sell, not enter data. Attention fills your CRM with a single click, drafts custom follow-ups, and gives real-time assistance. Isn't it time your CRM worked for you? Ready to upgrade your sales? Visit www.attention.tech.
And I said, I'm only going to focus on coaching. But if I focus on coaching, I can't just do one-on-one because that doesn't scale. So I came up with the help of some mentors and, my advisors, I came up with a strategy that would be a multiple offer for coaching. I had bronze coaching, which is online, which is just purely selling a course where it would not take any time, effort, or energy except building the course, which was a huge endeavor in itself. Yeah. The second tier was group coaching. So I would create a mastermind where people could come in together. We'd meet every week and I'd coach via Zoom to a group of people. And the third level would be one-on-one, which would include the online course and the group sessions and some one-on-one sessions. And I launched this April of 2022. Now, I had a hunch that this, was the way to go. But what ended up happening was in 2022, I was still kind of like weaning off my revenue. That was almost all coming from the B2B side, some coaching, but mostly B2B. And so I still had a couple of those clients. So I ended up launching and I sold about $1 million in this new online coaching portal platform. And then the other business was 500K of the B2B stuff, right? So now it doubled what the revenue was. Well, this year, we're recording this on August 10th. My revenue is over 1.3, I think 1.35, and it's only the online business. I haven't done any coaching I haven't done any B2B work apart from the Pavilion Enterprise Sales School, which I teach, but that's not a big part of the revenue. So I knew that going all in and focusing on that specific niche was going to, I had a really, really strong idea that was going to scale the best of the other two because advisory was dependent on me and the workshops was dependent on me unless I wanted to set up some training program. So that thing I could scale, that thing I can do. And it turned out, knock on wood, that was the right bet. And now I get to build that as a company that can be 3 to 5 million based on how do we take that to more people and, build out our affiliate program, build out our sales force, drive more traffic to, inbound calls, et cetera. So now I'm kind of treating it as a SaaS company and it's really fun. I greatly enjoy it versus being thinly spread in all these different revenue directions.
Yeah. And you're the second guest that actually talked about the E-Myth Revisited. We had a similar conversation with John Barrows. He said the same thing. He said, like, as a trainer or someone that is doing B2B consulting, like they want you. And so you can never really scale outside of it. Like as you build more people into your business, it's very difficult because if you're buying Ian, you're buying Ian to come do the work versus anything else.
The quality control is impossible. I mean, as much as you want to train someone, it's you and your unique approach, methodology, and even personality that makes people want to work with you. So you can do that really well in coaching, but in the B2B space, I mean, either you're going to be traveling all the time. It just doesn't scale past like $1 million, $1.5 million, whereas the group programs scale really well to 3 to 5 easily.
No, you're right. Like Dale and I talk about this a lot. Like I think we both love coaching. I love coaching new leaders. From a financial standpoint, it doesn't make sense. You need so many of them to hit that revenue mark. And from a time standpoint, it's brutal one-on-one. So I applaud you for that. One of the things that you talk about a lot is like mindset and habits, right? Like you have to have the right mindset. You have to have the right habits in order to be successful. And I think whether you're an account executive, whether you're a BDR, whether you're a founder that's transitioning from founder-led sales, it comes down to mindset and habits. talk to us a little bit about that. And like, what do you think are like the must-haves in the revenue world to make it? Because revenue is changing. Like, you gotta have certain things or you're not going to survive it right now.
Yeah, I think from a sales rep's perspective, again, for revenue, let me take a step back. For anybody who is tasked with running revenue or driving revenue, your time is extremely valuable. When I think about the mindset, it starts with knowing the value of your time, literally to the hour. Yeah. And so if I go through an exercise really simply, and this is how I priced out my program, my coaching. If I go through a simple exercise, I'll just use it for a sales leader. What does a really, really successful CRO make these days for
$550 a year in today's market? So Dale, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment.
Okay. So if a CRO, if you think about the core qualities of a CRO, the core activities which drive revenue that CROs need to focus on, what would you say those are? I'm just going through this exercise so anyone can do it for the sake of the audience. So what would be like the revenue generating core activities as a CRO would need to do to really drive revenue in their startup, in their business, whatever level they're at?
Come on, Dale, test your skills. What does a CRO do?
Yeah, build out the sales process. Like, have a process for your execution of sales.
Okay, build out the sales process. What else? Would you say developing and coaching people would be important?
Developing and coaching senior leaders, bringing together, bridging the gap between sales, marketing, and success.
Yep.
Understanding the clients and how they buy and why they're going to buy, so you can train. It comes back to training. It's funny. It's onboarding, training, coaching.
Yeah. So those we would call activities that generate revenue. Maybe they're not generating immediate revenue. Immediate revenue generating activities would be meeting with customers and actually helping the team close, especially if they're in a smaller company, right? Where they need to get involved with the customers. But the simple exercise is this, okay? If you look at a CRO's calendar, or it could be for AEs or VPs of sales, it doesn't matter. How much time in a given day are spent specifically building out the sales process, developing and coaching people, sales, driving, training, and onboarding, going and bridging the gap with marketing, right? If we look at what is spent there versus what is spent on, we're going to call them lower value activities, okay? Maybe what would you estimate in a given 8 or 9 or 10 hour workday, how much time is spent on those activities, purely on those versus anything else?
My gut is like 2 hours out of a 10 hour day.
I was going to say 2 to 3 hours.
Okay. So it's funny you mentioned that, because those are the activities that they need to be working on. Well, with sales reps that I coach, what I call them is RGAs, or revenue generating activities. It's really not much different from sales leaders. So with sales reps, the activities are creating, advancing, and closing pipeline. Those are the only things you're paid to do in sales. If you don't do those things, you're wasting your time. Everything else is noise, and you're spending time on the noise instead of on what's RGAs. Okay. So I go through this exercise with sales reps, and ironically, it's really 2 to 4 hours. So it's similar. So let's just use 3 hours. Okay. For this example, $550,000 is what we're working with. You take someone who works 3 hours a day on revenue generating activities, you multiply it by 5 days a week, multiply that by 48 weeks in a year, you have 720 hours actually spent on income producing activities, or activities that drive revenue. Divide that by 550,000 divided by 720, their hourly rate is $764 per hour. So if they're doing something that's not worth 764 hours an hour, they're costing their company, themselves, and their team money. So is this activity worth $764 an hour? If not, say no to it or delegate it, so you could focus on the core activities. That is the mindset, and actually the habits, that simply, if you just do that and nothing else, everything changes. If you get that 2 to 3 hours to 6, 7 hours and really get good at delegating, at filtering the noise, at hiring people that can do some of those lower value activities, you're going to thrive because you're working in your genius.
So I think this is so relevant not only for AEs, but let's take it all the way up to founders. When you're trying to transition and founders want to be involved in every single thing, they want to be on every call, in every meeting. What is that hourly rate? And what could you delegate that you should have other people leading, and trusted business leaders who really can take what would take you an hour and a half at that rate and bring it down to 30 or 40 minutes so the time could be so much more productive. I love, Ian, that you said revenue generating activities. I say something very similar. Like if it doesn't produce revenue, I don't want you doing it. I despise admin work for sellers because it doesn't bring money in the door.
Yeah. So here's the question. Okay. If you're doing something repetitive over and over again, the question is, do I need to be doing it? If you don't, then just eliminate it. But if you do need to be doing it, can it be automated? Or can it be delegated, right? Yeah. And those usually, if you say, can I eliminate it, automate, or delegate? If you answer that for things that are low value, the answer is typically yes. So my mentor, a guy named Rory Vaden, he's fantastic. He founded Brand Builders Group, which I followed their playbook to a T to grow my business. He has a great TED Talk, and it's called Multiply Your Time. Definitely worth watching. And he says the essence of the TED Talk is spend time today doing things that will save you time tomorrow. So I spend a lot more time now when I see something that I shouldn't be doing to either hire someone or automate it or eliminate it. So that's it, or delegate it, right? Yeah. So I have 8 people on my team now. Now they're contractors. They're not all full-time, but I have someone doing my video editing because I don't need to be doing that. I make a video and they make shorts out of it. I have a BDR now who actually is doing a great job doing appointment setting and doing some outbound messaging. I have a salesperson that's taking the calls. I have a marketing person that's doing my email newsletter. He's also doing my LinkedIn, repurposing some stuff, that analyzing it, repurposing content that does really well and reposting. I have someone who is a developer who's enhancing my online program. I have an event planner that's working with me. And I have a virtual assistant who does like all my tedious tasks that I need to just get done. I also have an accountant that is doing all my bookkeeping. So I have this great team so that I could focus on growing the business and coaching. Now I'm still, again, in the business because I'm delivering, but ultimately I'm trying to get out of the one-on-one stuff, or at least minimize it so I can build and enhance the group program even more. And it's just, I put a cap on it. I say this, I'm not taking more clients because I only have this much time. So that's kind of the second principle, is spend time today on things that'll save you time tomorrow. In the third principle, which I love, is something, it's called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law states that work expands to fill the time allotted. Okay. So if you have a task that, you give 3 hours to, you'll spend 3 hours on it. But if you only have 30 minutes to do that same thing, you're actually going to work with more focus and more intention and put away the distractions to get it done. So absolutely, with Parkinson's Law, what I've done is I've created very, very strict boundaries in my workday. Where you asked earlier, Adam, how do you let go? Well, the answer is I've decided that I'm starting work at 8 and I'm done by 6. And in between, from 12 to 1, I'm taking a lunch with my wife and my family. And I stick to those boundaries. And what's happened is that forces you to pick what you're going to focus on and prioritize what you're going to focus on. Okay. And by doing that, not only do you work more efficiently, but you can choose where you're spending your time in those higher value activities. So that to me is really important. It's like, if you give yourself the weekend, you'll work on the weekend. If you give yourself time, I'm selling more than I would bet 90% of founders within 2 years. I'm over 2 million. I'll be an Inc. 5,000 company next year. Okay. Because I am efficient and I'm very intentional with how and where I spend my time. And it's not coincidence. It's because I study time management. I work on myself. I'm very committed to my family. And I'm going to do this I want to show people you can run a very successful business without getting a divorce or without, having your kids raised by the nanny. So I just see that a lot.
That's why I put do not disturb on when Adam pings me 400 times a day. I'm like, I'm in deep focus. Leave me alone.
Yeah, deep work. That's right. Deep work. So that's kind of like the mindset and habits. I know I touched on a lot, but those are kind of 3 of the guiding principles that I use. I have a lot of.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
No, they're all valuable, right? And at the end of the day, like, you have to have the right mindset to be successful, no matter what your role is. And I love how you talk about spending time with your family. And like, I'm good at time management. I'm not great at it. Like, I block out time to pick up my kid from school. Like, that's non-negotiable. But I do find myself, I used to pride myself, Ian, on saying like, oh, I can multitask, right? Like, I could talk and I could, do the Slack message and respond to the email. And at the end of the day, I was good at a lot, but great at nothing because I wasn't focusing on anything. When you get really nuanced, to your point, I could do this from 8 o'clock to 8:30 and it's got to get done by 8:30. You're going to do a whole lot more than, it's got to get done by noon.
Yeah, 100%. And the other question is like, okay, while you're doing those things that are outside of work, are you preoccupied with work? Are you thinking about what's next? Are you thinking about that? That's the other thing is like, what is the quality of those relationships or engagements? And I think, again, for me, it's a lot easier to turn it off when I can tell myself I've done all I can within the time that I've allotted. It's really hard to turn it off when
it's just rolls, like it's just rolling, like you have no boundaries. The boundary is super important.
And just knowing you're like doing all you can. I think that's you get to a place where you say, I'm doing all I can. I prioritize. So this last system is a system I use called the 12-week year, which is every single week I create in the beginning of the week or on Sunday night, I create all the things I want to do, and then I rank them in order of priorities. And I've been using this for about 3 years, and this is how I grew and scaled my business. It really is magical because it forces you to plan and prioritize what's most important, especially around
everyone watching on YouTube is pausing their screen and taking a picture of that document so that they could steal it.
I can give you guys the document.
I'm going to set some boundaries and tell Dale that he is no longer allowed to message me at 10 o'clock at night.
Not allowed, Dale. Not allowed. So that's cool. I mean, it really is like an exercise in planning. This is most important. I do that once a week. And then my lower brain that wants to go to dopamine, wants to go to distractions or busy work or whatever, has this as a guidance saying, nope, your higher brain said to do these things. So I know what I need to be doing because it's already been planned out by my smarter self, if you will. We all have these two brains.
At a time you had some thinking power.
That's right.
I mean, I've learned so much today. And one of the things that we talk about why we started this podcast was giving more than we receive. We feel super lucky. So you've offered up something free to the audience. So please give the audience what you want to provide.
Yeah, I'm offering a 30-minute free coaching session. So I don't do a lot of these.
I am signing up because with everything you dropped today, I want that.
I charge $1,500 an hour for coaching, so it's worth a good amount for 30 minutes.
Incredible value, incredible gift where someone is going to learn so much. I think this might be the highest ticket value item we've had so far. We're going to have to do a little something special. This isn't going to go to some random newsletter subscriber.
So make sure if you do get this coaching, you come prepared. Come in with your questions. Come in with areas that you need help with. It's not, hey, great to meet you. Here's our coaching session. Like if you want to learn from someone who's done it and who's doing it, come in with
maybe the thing is they got to ask a question in the comments so that we can like see who's going to ask some of the best questions to come prepared.
Yeah, I've coached lots of founders, lots of sales leaders. So yeah, just come prepared.
Adam J is coming to spend 30 minutes with Ian.
That's right. You're going to take this away for yourself.
I'm going to take it for everyone. As we wrap up, Ian, I'd love to throw some rapid fire at you. You game?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. What song would best describe your revenue strategy?
So right now, what's coming to me is that song. I don't even know who sings it. It's my life. It's now or never. And
that is Bon Jovi.
So it's now or never. In other words, like go all in. Like stop waiting for perfect and go commit every single day to what you want. So that's coming through my head right now.
I love it.
Unplanned, unscripted.
Love it. If you had a crystal ball, what's one revenue trend or strategy that you see taking hold in the next 12 to 18 months?
Man, the sequences I see right now are beyond awful coming out. And if that's what humans are paid to do, then I would sign up for AI and improve it any day of the week. So I see AI taking over some of the BDR type positions in the near future, because what I'm getting is just crap. It's unpersonal, it's generic, it's terrible, and I think a robot could write better than most of what I get. Or maybe a robot is writing it. I don't know. But that's something.
It all starts with, hi, and I hope this email finds you well. It's garbage.
Exactly. I get them every day. It's garbage, and please don't, unless you wanted me to block you and unsubscribe you and report you as spam.
So you can only choose one. Are you going to focus on customer retention or customer acquisition? And let me ask that a little differently, not for your business. In the scheme of revenue today, should the focus be on customer retention or customer acquisition?
Gosh, it depends on the type of business. I mean, I have to answer it in the lens of sales, because that's my background, and say customer acquisition, because without customers, the business is dead. But if you're a SaaS company and you need to be sticky, you better make sure your product works. You better make sure there's adoption, and customer retention is right there with it. Now, my business, again, is biased because people sign up for a year of coaching. Yes, well, I'd love to have me in their corner forever, right? Some people just might be committed for a year. It's not core to their business actually running, right? So I'm focused on both, but a little more leaning towards customer acquisition, to be honest.
I love that. So earlier in the show, you talked about you were going to go out of sales and go as a sales enablement leader. It's tomorrow morning, you wake up. What's the first thing you do as the sales enablement leader of the new organization?
Man, I would have them all sign up to my course. I wouldn't build it out. I really wouldn't. I would find really, really good trainers and bring in the outside. The problem with sales enablement is it's very skewed towards products or our specific. I mean, I know I'm not joking. Like, I would find something that's focused on selling skills, because all the enablement out there is like on the product or the pitch deck, or, here's our process. Whereas like what people need now is selling skills. How do you do discovery? How do you actually have a human-to-human conversation? How do you talk to people? How do you actually propose and be direct? What does good communication look like? What does good email copywriting look like? There's so much actual basic skills, which the fundamentals are being neglected right now. And it's really scary.
Foundation 101. Get back to sales 101, people.
Sales 101. I would do selling skills training. And if I couldn't do it all myself or didn't have capacity, I would get some help. That's for sure.
I love it. Ian, thank you so much. There was so much value dropped in this. Where could people find you? How could they follow you? What's the best way to find you, man?
So 2 places. One is LinkedIn. I'm posting all the time on LinkedIn every day. If you like my content, follow me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put new video trainings every week out. If you're interested in coaching or training, or having your team coach with me potentially, go to untapyoursalespotential.com, untapyoursalespotential.com, and then you can read all about the courses and programs. We do both teams and we do individuals.
Awesome. Ian, thank you so much, man. This was great.
Thank you, man.
My pleasure. It was a lot of fun.